Tyler, what is up, man? Welcome to Maybe You're Like Me. How are you doing today, friend?
Great. It's good to be here.
It is great. Now, we are geographically not very close right now. You're up in, I believe you're in Tennessee, correct?
Nope. Omaha, Nebraska, right in the
Same
middle
thing.
of the country.
They're basically the same spot. Just kidding. I don't know why I thought Tennessee, because it's because you're the only 10 that I see right now. But yeah, Omaha, Nebraska. So we're probably dealing with a bunch of different weather stuff right now. What's temperature going on in the old Nebraska?
Man, it is like 60 degrees, like 50 or 57 degrees right now. It is beautiful.
Yeah, Florida has not decided to be a part of fall quite yet. We've been getting like in the 60s at nighttime, but in the day it's still in like the mid upper 80s, and it's pretty gross. So
Well, we got about 4 weeks of good weather per year. And we're right in that window right now. So we're enjoying it. Family walks, throwing the football around. We're enjoying it for these 4 weeks out of the year.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm jealous of you. Even if the weather is nice, I usually don't take a walk anyway, but I probably should. So good on you. I've actually been to Omaha once, and this is probably 25 years ago. And it was my first time ever going to like a actual coffee shop was in Nebraska. And it was, I don't even know where we were, but it was like, I just had this eye-opening experience. Like, this is what a coffee shop is. And like, it had the acoustic music playing. There was bags of coffee everywhere. And so that's my memory
25
of
years
Omaha.
ago?
Potentially, yeah. It was a long, long time ago. Maybe
Might
20. But
Caffeine Dreams. That was the happening like spot. Like, if you're going back to Saved by the Bell from my childhood, they had the Max is where everyone hung out. Caffeine Dreams is sort of the hangout spot in Omaha. So it was a pretty cool place. It shut down, unfortunately. Rest in peace. But there's a whole new generation of coffee shops that have come up since. So.
Oh, that's great. That, and then that was the first and only time that I've ever heard tornado sirens. And I was like, are we good, guys? Do we need to like get in a basement? What's going on? And no one else was even slightly affected by it. But Florida boy was like peeing his pants a little bit. So luckily I didn't get Wizard of Oz, and everything was okay.
That's how we are with hurricanes.
If you guys get a hurricane
tornadoes,
in Omaha,
we just like look out the window. We're like, oh, we want to see what the tornado is. It's very intriguing. Yeah, we don't get scared. But with hurricanes and earthquakes, we're like, whoa, because we're not used to those.
Yeah, Florida man is strong when it comes to hurricanes. Tornadoes sound pretty iffy though. So, and the thing is, we even get them down here every now and again, but it's like it's an oddity compared to normal. All right, I've wasted our time on a bunch of random stuff. Let's get to this. Tyler, there's people out there that this may be the first time that they're hearing from you or getting to meet you. And so if there's people out there that this is their first time, give us like the quick details. Who's Tyler Zach? Give us all the fun, like not like business stuff, but like the personal stuff. Who's Tyler?
Yeah, I am an Enneagram 3 achiever personality type who is a former black belt, former fraternity president, former music DJ, and former pastor. Yeah. So I just like all those things
three
together.
Always mixed together. Yeah.
I grew up like here in rural Nebraska. First job was working on a hog farm and detasseling, bean walking, all that stuff in the fields. I moved to the city of Omaha. You said you visited.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 1 million people in the surrounding area. So very diverse, big music scene. Like you mentioned, the kind of indie people playing the guitar in the coffee shop. And I moved here to go to college and get a computer degree. And when I was getting my computer degree, I had sort of a spiritual awakening in college. And that started to veer me in the direction of spiritual things. And I actually became a campus minister for 9 years to really help see fraternity and sorority students in particular just grow and develop in those formative years. And then I got married to my beautiful bride, Lindsay. We ended up adopting 2 sons, 2 biracial sons. One is on the spectrum. And so that's been a huge part of our story. So I appreciate your podcast because, I'm out there achieving, I'm out there doing things. And people kind of see that persona a lot, but they don't get to see behind the scenes of how hard life is with going through infertility, adoption, um, dealing with a child on the spectrum and all the issues that come with that.
Yeah.
So that's been a big part of my story. And then after 9 years of campus ministry, became a pastor, started a church, then merged my almost 95% white church with a multi-ethnic church
That's
right
awesome.
before COVID started. And then COVID hit. And this year I finally transitioned out of pastoral ministry and am now a full-time author, full-time Enneagram coach and consultant, going to the workplace and do business workshops and those kind of things. So I have space to do podcasts like this now.
That's awesome.
And yeah,
I'm
so
so
that's just
happy you're here.
yeah, it's just a little bit about me.
Yeah, so that I love all of that stuff, and I love getting to know, like the whole podcast is about getting to know people a little bit beyond the stuff that we see online. But if we're gonna get beyond that stuff, let's just go ahead and start with that stuff. So if we were gonna get like the hyped up version, like the oh my gosh, this guy's amazing, like give me your Instagram highlight reel, give me all that stuff. Who is that, Tyler? Let's start with the filter before we get out of the filter stuff. Sound good?
For sure. So for right now, the biggest thing I've worked on recently is an Enneagram series. It's a faith-based devotional series. So I've taken truth and I've contextualized it for your type. Truth for your type. I've taken Bible stories and plus the best of the best information from Enneagram books out there, both Christian and non-Christian, just from a variety of perspectives. I've taken all of that wisdom and sort of condensed it and curated it into these 40-day books. So 180 pages just on your personality type. So it's a 9-book series. I'm just finishing book 8 right now. And so I have one more to go to finish the series. It's a 5-year project and I've sold about 10,000 copies so far without a publisher, without paid marketing. This is just organic, just self-publishing. So that's been really fun. And then in the meantime, I've been growing an Enneagram Instagram account to about 46,000 people who want to become self-aware and improve their life and their relationships by understanding their personality. So that's kind of what I've been doing on the side as a full-time pastor. But then this year, for the sake of my family and for the sake of helping my wife homeschool our son on the spectrum
Mhm.
and devote more energy to my family in this next decade, I decided to jump out of ministry because it can be very taxing.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. So I'm moving out of that and just excited about the next decade of devoting myself to writing and consulting, coaching, and homeschooling, and just being more available for my family.
Yeah, that's incredible. I know that, like, so I'm going to give you a nutshell version of how this whole podcast even started. This podcast started because I wanted to write a book that helped me, like some of the books that you've written and some other people have written that really helped me. And so in the process of trying to figure out, like, if a publisher would ever want to touch me, they say you need a following first. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe I can start talking to people about the ideas that I've been having, and so it just turned into this whole podcast thing. And so the fact that you've self-published and sold 10,000 of anything is unbelievable. So congratulations on that. And the thing that's cool too is you found a really big felt need that there's people that you can wander through life and it's life can be tough, but if you can find something like the Enneagram or different personality tests and assessments that can help you kind of make sense out of, number one, how you're feeling and how you perceive things, then it can really help open up your eyes to a lot of things. So what was your start for the Enneagram? Like, how did you get in touch with the whole Enneagram thing in the first place? And then how did it lead you to write all these books and do this amazing stuff with the Enneagram?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of Christians that are skeptical about the Enneagram first and foremost. And so, but I found it from a friend whose church was using it to train their leaders and help their leaders become more self-aware. And I was thinking to myself, well, if this church is using it and they have a really high standard and high filter for cultural goods, cultural things, then yeah, I should jump in and try it out. And it was just as a caveat. Later on, I decided to do a deep dive into the history of it and the origins of it to get to the bottom of, okay, what there's all these rumors going on of that it's occultic and it's a horoscope and all these things. And so I wanted to get to the bottom of those things. So I created a whole e-course after doing a year's worth of research and investigation into the history and the origins, just to like bring clarity to people. Like, okay, it's a psychological tool. It's okay to use. Here's the nuts and bolts of it. And
Yeah.
so I created an e-course primarily to help Christians
Mhm.
not get, not buy into the fear mongering. So that's kind of a side note, side pursuit there. But getting back to it, it's a psychological tool that when I got into it and started reading about it, it profoundly impacted my life, profoundly impacted my marriage. Is it right now is paying dividends on parenting my son and his personality type and loving him in the best way possible. It's given me information to take to his teacher. Like, here's some tips to work with him in the classroom and, the business, the workplace. And so it's been just a profound tool that brings astonishing self knowledge and clarity. So I really love working with it. And so that's the reason why I work with it, is because I feel like it's more profound and more deep and more convicting than any other personality tool out there. The Strengths Finders, the Myers Briggs, all of which I love, the Big Five. This has been the tool that has been the best by far. And so that's a little bit how I got into it.
I like it. Yeah. So I told you earlier, I'm a 9. You're a 3. You said my wife is a 6, and it's all fun. Like it's been, I can't tell you how many years ago it was that we kind of stumbled on the Enneagram, and it's one of those things that when you start reading like your type and then your partner's type and all those things and the people around you. So we've at the people where I work, they've all done the Enneagram as well, and so it's just easy to see how I can better relate and uh, figure out how I can be a better help where I am. Just knowing what I am, and then also knowing how they're perceiving things, potentially how they're perceiving things. I'm never going to get it right, but yeah, it's a super big help. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So and the thing that's even better is there's people out there like you that are helping people like me that I get it on a surface level, but if to break it down a little bit more and to really figure it out, it's super helpful. Thank you for doing what you do, man. So
Yeah, well, first of all, it's really helpful because we're talking about probabilities, not absolutes.
mhm.
So because you say you're an Enneagram 9 or resonate with that type resonates with you the most, that means I can't put you in a box and be like, oh, well, you
Mhm.
know, you this, and this. But it helps me have some probabilities like, okay, he's going to be, uh, he's going to have a really hard time disagreeing with me because he wants there to be harmony.
I do,
um,
I do.
so I need to encourage you to disagree with me and to remind you that conflict can be a form of intimacy, not something that, it needs to be avoided.
Not the way I do
Um,
it.
and encourage you, Mike, to speak up, to be a prophetic voice in the culture, and to speak up on the things that you're convicted on, and not just go with the flow all the time. And we'll talk about being a peacemaker, not a peace faker. And being a peacemaker means saying things that are hard for other people to hear, uh, protesting at times when there's injustices, to just encourage you to speak up. So I don't know. This is the first time we're getting to talk to each other, but it's very helpful information for me to know some things about you that I can instantly start encouraging you with. That's and you said you're married to a 6.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I'm married to a 6 as well, and I'll
Hey.
talk a little bit more about Lindsay in a little bit. But that's just really helpful because now I see her as a protector, not a pessimist.
Mm.
uh, 6s, can catastrophize. They can be problem seekers, not problem solvers. They can see all of the negative things that could go wrong. And I always saw that as a lack of faith. Like, why don't you just have more faith like me? Just believe the best, like the best is going to happen. And so I thought I was better than her, to be honest, to be
Mhm.
bluntly truthful. I thought I had more faith.
Mhm.
And I realized God brought me through a season of life that I'll get to, but I realized no, like she actually loves people more than I do, way more than I do, and that she's bringing up her concerns because she's trying to protect me. That's
Hmm.
a form of it's a love language of, hey, I want to keep you safe. I want to protect you from jumping off that cliff. And there's been times where I haven't believed her, and I kept thinking, oh no, nothing bad's going to happen, and then the car breaks down because I didn't get the oil changed or something dramatic like that. And I'm like, oh, like she was right. Like she was trying to protect me. And so the Enneagram has helped me to realize that she's not a pessimist, but that she is a realist and a protector. And so I just see her in a different light now. I'm not sure if you see some similar patterns in your wife, but
Oh
I
yeah,
just,
absolutely.
yeah.
I heard on, I think it was a podcast a long time ago. It was, and I've told this story on the podcast before, but they were talking about how six are they're just so loyal. And recently, there's been a few things that I've really seen the loyalty side of my wife come out, and it's beautiful and good. And but they were talking about how that your Enneagram number, like you can view it as a negative. So like the worry side of the being a six can be, you can see it as a negative, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, it is a protector thing as well. And they said that somewhere in a jungle, they took all the monkeys that would alert when there was problems coming away from a, have you heard of this before?
Yeah.
Because I
From
thought I
Ian
made it up.
Cron.
Yeah,
I've heard
I
it
think
from
it
Ian
is.
Cron.
Yeah. And so that, you know, the story that they ended up taking all the like the alert monkeys away, and then they went back a few months later and all the other monkeys were dead because they didn't have those people there to like sound the alarm and protect them. And we could talk for a long, long time about how much my wife has saved me from, because I'm a jump first, think later kind of guy, and she is a, hey, let's slow it down a little bit there, Mike. And so yeah, it's cool that every personality type in the Enneagram, we've all got our superpowers, we've all got our things that we're just amazing at. And if you can really focus in on those things instead of the opposite side, the bad side of the coin, then yeah, it makes life a little bit more beautiful.
Yeah. And I love the way that you have this podcast set up is, yeah, you want me to talk about my highlight reel, about the things that I'm achieving and great things that are happening. But, I don't know if this was intentional, but one of the questions you said, "Hey, I'd love to talk about this. What has been your favorite failure to date?"
Oh yeah, we're gonna get
and
there. It's gonna be
and
great.
that's such a great question because threes have a fear of failure, don't
Hmm.
like talking about their failures, tend to airbrush their failures, tend to be like Michael Scott in The Office
Uh-huh.
about our
Oh yeah.
failures. Like, I failed at this or I got knocked down. But I was like a phoenix rising from the ashes and I got back on track and I got my stuff together and I learned all these new things. And, threes can airbrush even their
Yeah.
failures rather than saying, no, I just totally blew it. And I was wrong. And threes don't like to talk about that stuff because they are convinced, they buy into this lie that they're only loved for being a
Mm,
success.
yeah.
So I don't want to talk about my failures because I think that those people listening or watching will judge me and will think less of me. But you asking the question, what are your failures? It's a good practice for threes to do because then I can open up about these things even though it's hard, and you can say, hey, we still appreciate you, Tyler. We still respect you. It's good to know you're human like the
Yeah,
rest of us.
absolutely.
And so I just love that
Hmm.
because threes can, like myself, we can have our own podcasts and we can talk about our successes and how great we are and put on the Instagram filter and make ourselves look better.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
podcasts like this that get to the heart of behind the masks, behind the scenes, is what we need more of. So I appreciate you
Well,
doing
thank you,
this.
man. That means a lot to me. And if you'd like a little behind the scenes, my initial idea for a podcast when I was first dreaming about like what a podcast could be and look like was it was going to be called My Favorite Failure. And
Mm,
every episode was going to open with me talking about the people's failures before we talked about their successes, and
yeah.
how that everyone out there has failed at some point. Um, I had that idea, and then I thought about it for a second, and I was like, no one is ever going to book on this podcast. No one's going to want to be introduced as today's failure is Tyler Zach. So I figured out another way around it. So here we are on Maybe You're Like Me.
No, I appreciate it. I have a 4-wing, which means I take on some of the characteristics of the number next to me. And the 4s are the artists, the authentic artists that like to go deep. And deep at any cost. So even if you're talking about your failures or talking about tragedies, it's like we have to, because that's the authentic way to do it. And that side of me that likes listening to melancholy music and all that, if I could start a new podcast, it would be like Enneagram Confessional, the Enneagram Confessional. Like, come and like confess your deepest, darkest blind spots and mistakes. Because I feel like we can learn from like that's way more helpful than just seeing more celebrity type people out there with their awesome podcasts that look like they're living the life that we can't have. And that's not real.
Yeah.
So,
do you think we could also get Chris Carrabba to collaborate on that podcast? And you could have Dashboard Confessional, Enneagram Confessional?
The Enneagram Confessional. And having been a pastor, I grew up Catholic early on in life, but like, I used to, as a kid, I had to go to the confessional and confess my sins to a priest. And there was a guy named Donald Miller. Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
Okay. He was great because he was at I think it was Portland or somewhere in the Northwest, where he like reversed it, and he built a confessional booth out in the middle of a college campus and said, "Hey, come to us spiritual people when we're going to confess our sins to you because we've blown it." So I just loved that whole reverse thing of like, okay, we as this spiritual group on campus are going to confess to you. So anyways, side note.
Yep. I've got a bunch of friends who are 4s and or like 4 wings in some way, shape or form. And they're always like, yeah, tell me how you feel. And I'm like, I don't want to. I just want to let's have a good time here, guys. and they're always reading their sad books. And so I'm like, no, let's be happy for a minute. Let's do that instead. So
exactly.
Oh man. I love this. I love getting to talk to you, Tyler. Thank you again so much for being here, man. This is fun. On the podcast, we do things in a couple of rounds. And the first round, I call it the first date round. You've been married for a little now. How long you guys been married?
Yeah, about 15 years.
Hey, congratulations. Good job, Lindsay, sticking with Tyler. That's great. You said her name's Lindsay, correct?
Yeah, she's a 6, so she'll never leave me. She's loyal.
Yeah, she is. Good job. You locked up a good one. But
I did.
So about 16, 17 years ago, you guys went on a first date. And when you go on a first date, the end goal is to try to figure out, is this person compatible with me? Like, are we like each other? And so, but when you're on that first date, you don't want to ask like yes or no questions. Like, do you like bread? Because like sans an allergy, the answer is yes. And that's just the end of that conversation. But do you like bread, or are you rocking some gluten-free realness? Okay, good.
Real bread.
All right. Yeah. Live it up. But yeah, so you want to ask the right kind of questions. And so this is the first date round. These are kind of icebreaker, get to know you style questions. Sound good?
Yeah. Sounds great.
All right, here we go. So what is, like, on a game night, what is your go-to favorite card game?
Right now it's the UNO or UNO.
You know?
The college I went to was UNO. It's
okay.
But Uno. I was trying to get to Uno. Uno Flip is, I think it's called Uno Flip.
Yeah.
It's crazy because, you're playing Uno and then you have to flip the whole deck over and then you can play from the other side. It messes you up. It's a little more complicated, but that's what my son loves. And so that's what we've been playing.
Yeah, I can get down some Uno. My wife and her best friend have started playing Uno. They've got like a ongoing, like, weekly game that they've got, like, they're keeping score, and it's getting bad. And I saw online recently, I think I'm going to get it for my wife for Christmas. Don't listen to this, babe, if you're listening. I think it's called like Revenge, like Uno Revenge, or like Dirty Uno or something. And it's not dirty, but it's like draw 25 cards, or like do jumping jacks for the next hand. Like there's just like a bunch of like extreme, maybe it's extreme.
Wow.
I don't remember. I'll put it in the show notes so everybody can get that
Wow.
link. But yeah, it's
sounds tiring.
intense. Yeah. Yeah, I love, is there any, so like Uno's a great one. Is there any like, just like if you got a deck of cards and you're with some people, that kind of game that you'd go for?
Just poker, I guess. I like poker.
Okay.
But we played a lot more board games in our house than card games.
Okay. Then just for fun, what are your guys go-to board games?
Yeah, Yahtzee has been my family game growing up when I was a kid, and so I've sort of tried to implement that as as our family board game for my kids, and I just love Yahtzee.
Oh man!
But you know, we play a lot of different games, categories, Monopoly, Settlers of Catan. Now that my son's now in my older son's in middle school, and he really likes that game. Settlers is great.
Those are all great choices. If it's just me and like a deck of cards, I've learned a couple of new games. Some friends introduced me to a game called Golf, and I don't know how to describe it. But my favorite, just like especially if you got like 6 or 8 people, like a good group, is a game called Kemps. And it's basically you have a partner. So like, let's say you and I were partners, and the gameplay is that you're trying to get 4 of a kind, and without letting anyone else at the table know that I've got 4 of a kind, I would have to tell you that I've got 4 of a kind. And
interesting.
It's super fun, and like it's a really fast paced game. And a long time ago, I was playing this game called Kemps with some friends, and I know some sleight of hand stuff with cards. And so my best friend was sitting across the table from me. He was my partner, and I bottom dealt him 4 of a kind. And so that never happens. And
Wow.
he picks up his 4 cards and looks up with like the biggest in awe face, and just that he just like struck gold. And I'm just dying laughing watching him like have this moment of extreme joy. And then I had to ruin it, but telling him I bottom dealt, but it was the most beautiful moment of my life. So
that's awesome.
Love it.
Yeah. And I love about that.
Yeah. Oh man, I'll send you the rules, and next time I'm in Omaha, we'll get together, play some Uno and Kemps. It'll be a good time. So
sounds great.
Yeah. All right. Let's keep it going here. This one's a fun one that I just thought of recently. But if someone was to give you $10,000 and you can buy one item, this is a treat yourself item. This isn't for your wife. This isn't for your kids. This isn't for anything else. But if you could just buy yourself one, and your cap's 10,000. I didn't want to go too crazy with $1 million. This isn't Brewster's Millions. But if you got $10,000 for one item, what are you buying?
Yeah. So this involves my wife, but it's also selfish. But I would go to Italy with my wife.
Ooh.
I would spend $10,000 to go on a great trip to Italy, maybe around Europe too, but primarily Italy. She's always wanted to go there, and having us on the spectrum that really we just can't drop off with anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard because when we were married without kids, we used to go to a different city each year for a married vacation. So we went to San Francisco, Seattle, St. Louis, and it was fun. But now we're in that season where we can't. But we're gonna make up for lost time someday, and I'll definitely get her to Italy sometime.
Sounds good. So everyone listening, we're starting a $10,000 GoFundMe for Tyler.
So right now I'm gonna have to spend the $10,000 on a new van.
No. This is just fun money. So
okay.
Vans are boring. But I'm gonna be honest with you. We had a minivan for the longest time, and I love that thing. I love me a minivan. I know that makes me a weird dude, but
it's nice to be able to throw stuff in there and haul things and throw the bikes in to go to a trail. It's useful.
That and the sliding doors. So my wife a couple years back, she was like, all right, we're out of the age where we need a minivan. We've got 2 boys. I want to make a trade in, and we got an SUV. And the thing that I miss the most is the sliding doors. Not even for like the power sliding thing, just for the fact that my now 6-year-old couldn't fling the door open at any passerby and or other car by us. Oh man, that kid, he's trying to kill us.
I know how it is. Yeah, they put your life in danger. They depreciate your house about $10,000 at
Yeah.
least,
hmm
and it's just how it is.
Yep. He's
So,
he's a nut. Both of those kids are turkeys, love him to death. But I'm a bad podcast host. I ask these questions and I don't think about them beforehand sometimes. So if I was given $10,000, like I don't know why, I think I would, and if this is just for me, not for my family, not for anything else, I think I'd buy myself like a ridiculously expensive guitar. Just one of those
mm,
things that like I have absolutely no use for. Like that there's no reason for it, but just like something that like Leo Fender himself made or something dumb like that. Or like John Mayer kissed and put his guitar playing abilities into like the Space Jam basketball, something like that.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, and then I would just get out there and join Hootie and the Blowfish and be a multimillionaire. So that
Oh,
I think
Hootie.
that was my problem. I think I turned my my thing into a money making scheme. This has gone horribly. Oh no. Oh man, but
Uh,
that sounds fun. All right, so things we've learned about you. Number one, it's time to get some new van stuff.
mhm,
Number two, you like to travel. Italy sounds great.
mhm.
If you're in Italy, what are you looking forward to eating in Italy? That's the real question.
What to do or eat?
Yes, yes, and eat it all. What do you
Um,
got?
oh man, we're we love Italian food, so I just love getting over there and have some authentic Italian food.
Mm.
Anything with paired with some wine, be out in the vineyard, go see some really old buildings, historic places that are older than the U.S. That's always fun going and visiting places that are
Yep.
like older than our country. It's
Uh huh.
just that are historic and beautiful. Just roaming around. Yeah, probably Venice. A little
Mm.
gondola floating
Ooh.
around, and then also trekking around Rome or somewhere cool.
Yeah,
And
for
then
sure.
yeah, having some wine and some good pasta.
Now, here's a question that I don't know how you'll answer. I'm going to make a guess for your wife, and I don't know this about you. So, say you're walking around like in a historic place, and say you're at a museum. Are you a guy that you stop and read every plaque, or are you just like, let's see it all? Like, let's
No,
zoom through
no
this.
reading plaques.
Now, is your wife the opposite?
Yeah. Well, she's more so. She'll more so appreciate. She's more in the present and more slower, and
hmm
I'm more like follow me. Like it's I don't know. I like being the tour guide for my family, and just
Uh huh.
I go too fast. And my son
The
is like my wife, and so when they're at the zoo, they want to read every animal and kind of take it all in. And
mm,
I'm like, this is so boring. We've seen it. Let's just keep going.
yep. We recently went to Philadelphia for a couple of days, and
Oh,
in
great.
Philadelphia's, there is an old. It used to be. It was one of America's first penitentiaries, and so
Mm.
and they have like the headsets and like you hold like it's not an iPod but like a music playing device or a and so it's got you got a
Oh, cool.
guided audio tour, and it was Steve Buscemi reading to you, so you're already in for a treat there. Um, and so
Interesting.
like for me, I don't want to stop and read everything, but like they have it all paced out so you can like get to where you need to go and listen within that time. And it was so cool. That was like the perfect marriage of what my wife wants in a museum and what I want in a museum. And it was all super interesting. So 10 out of
Wow.
10 would
I love
recommend.
that. I wish I would have had an audio tour when me and Lindsay went to the Rock at Alcatraz
Whoa.
in San Francisco. Took a ferry right out to the old prison there. That would
Uh-huh.
have been cool to have an audio tour as we're walking through the
I've
prison
heard
there.
that that Alcatraz is super cool. That
Yeah.
we went with another couple, and they said that the husband had been to Alcatraz, and he's like I put this neck and neck with Alcatraz, but he gave Alcatraz the step up because there's
Mm,
just a lot going on there.
yeah.
If
Hmm.
I went to Alcatraz, I would spend the whole time quoting that Nicolas Cage movie
Yeah.
with Sean Connery, The Rock,
That was
and
one of
I
my
would get
favorite
very
movies growing
annoying.
up. The Rock.
Oh,
Oh,
it's
so
so
good.
good.
Yeah.
I think I would say I take pleasure in gutting you, boy, a million times.
Oh, such a good
Yeah,
movie.
so good. That's Nicolas Cage at peak form. That or it's that, and then National Treasures on top, but
Mm,
they're pretty close there. So
that's great. Yep.
love some Nicolas Cage. All right, so that was the first date round. That's I'm happy that we finally made our way back to Nicolas Cage movies, because that's probably the most important thing we'll talk about today. But yeah, you just got to get that stuff out of the way there. All right, so the next round of questions, I call it the slow round, and it's a little bit less. Do you like to travel, or what would you blow money on? And a little bit more to the heart of you. So we've talked about some fun stuff, and so and you kind of alluded to this earlier, but um, in a world where it's easy to kind of put forward your successes, there's stories behind the success, and so you've probably failed. You probably don't want to admit it. I don't think you have, and I might be wrong. You might not have, but what is, and we talked about it earlier, that this was going to be my favorite failure. So if you have like a most recent, or like a failure that you've really learned from and really taken some stuff away from, what would you say is your favorite failure?
Yeah, the word favorite is interesting. Like favorite failure. There's no failures that are, I would say, favorite, or but there is like the biggest failure. I would say one of them is going back to the story with my wife of the infertility um story. I think I kind of failed her in the way that I handled that situation and grieved. And now I wish I would have known the Enneagram back then. I wish I would have had it in premarital counseling, because it is, again, it's psychology of of human beings. It's how we think differently and grieve differently and have different fears, and we have all different lenses that we see the world. And when we're going through infertility, we're grieving differently. And Lindsay wept a lot. She cried a lot. She believed that we'd never see the miracle that we both were longing for. And to this day, still no miracles. We weren't able to ever get pregnant, which is something that she really wanted as a mom. She wanted to go through that experience, birth experience, and that, and she never was able to have that. And for years, I didn't allow myself to cry, but I kept telling her to have more faith. Kind of what I alluded to earlier. Of I thought I was more spiritual, I thought I was more
Mm,
positive, and that she needed to be more positive like me, have more faith like me. And I sort of suppressed my emotions, um, and just naively assumed that everything would work out. Like, oh, it'll probably happen. Uh, and again, I'm sharing this, some of it through the lens of faith, and I realize that not everybody's coming from the same faith, but it's just kind of how I processed it. But I just assumed that God would allow us to get pregnant at some point, that He'd take us through a rough patch and teach us some things, and then we'd get out of it, and there would be a miracle. And then I realized later on that this was just sort of an unconscious strategy to sweep things under the rug. That
mm,
what I thought of as faith, or just believing and being positive, was really just a defense mechanism to shove those hard emotions underneath the rug, so I didn't have to deal with them. Because to deal with them would take help. I'd have to burn a lot of calories and go through a lot of pain, and I didn't want to do that. And so, in doing that, sort of kind of like toxic positivity,
mm,
where I talked about this in the Type 7 book, because they're extreme optimists, but and they're like balloons that lift us up. But if you inject too much helium, trying to be fun, talk funny like a chipmunk, you ingest too much helium, you'll actually die from
mhm,
ingesting too much helium. So I call that, toxic positivity. There is such a thing as too much positivity, and there is a positivity and a faith that can harm other people. It's like a way of spiritual bypassing. And so in doing so, I sort of suppressed Lindsay's pain, ignored her pain, dodged her emotions, and therefore failed to be a good husband, offering just a healing presence to her. I was sort of holding fast to being a stoic, holding fast to stoicism, when
mhm.
really I should have been like sowing tears with her. And thankfully, I joined a small group of friends who were all stuck in various ways, and we're part of this kind of, call it a redemption group, but you could call it support group. There's different ways you could call it. But during one of our sessions, the leader sort of pointed his finger at me and sternly said, David, he was talking about King David in the Bible. He said, King David was a man that grieved and was called a man after God's own heart. And he says, you haven't done that.
Hmm.
And so he's like, you think you're spiritual, but you're not, because someone who's truly spiritual is somebody who's going to wrestle in these sorts of circumstances. They're going to be honest and authentic, and they're going to cry and they're going to get angry. That's what it means to be human. And you haven't done that. And so those words sort of shocked me out of passivity. And the next morning I was reading the story of Lazarus. And even if you haven't been in the Christian faith, you may have heard of the story of Lazarus, how he was in grave clothes and then Jesus came and like rose him from the dead. And I was reading that story, and what stuck out to me was the fact that, and this is the shortest verse in the Bible, and it's Jesus wept. And even though Jesus knew that he was going to raise this man from the dead, that's how the story goes, Jesus still like got down on his knees with Lazarus's families, and he just wept with them because he felt the stinging pain of death and the stinging feel of loss of losing someone that you really love. And Lindsay was grieving the loss of not being able to have a child naturally that looked like us, that talk like us, that all those sort of things. And I had not cried with her over that loss. And I felt like in that moment, like God said, Lindsay's tears are actually my tears. And so for the first time since our struggle, I started weeping and just weeping, and went to her, told her what happened, and we were able to weep together. And from that moment on, I was from that failure of just failing to be a good husband and to actually create space to listen to her pain, create space to receive her tears. That the failure of doing all of that, that's when it took a turn, and it really changed how I pastored after that. Going through that brokenness and that experience led me to grieve with countless other people in the decade to come, as they were going through loss of losing a baby, losing a loved one. So that experience, that failure, really like changed my life. And so, yeah, there's a lot of failures I could talk about, but that's kind of the easy one I go back to all the time. Is the one that I've probably learned the most from, is that
Yeah.
whole experience.
Yeah. I think there's a kind of reoccurring theme that happens a lot in this podcast, especially like when we get into this slow round, when people are talking about things that may not have turned out the way that they thought they were going to, or when they felt stuck in a thing that they didn't let it stop them from growing. But it seems like what you did with your failure was, it wasn't just, you didn't let it stop at, I failed at this. Like that would have been detrimental to your life, to your marriage, to the future ministry that you had. But instead of just taking it like, oh man, I failed and I'm done, you took it, you learned from it, and you grew with it. And so, and that's changed the course of your life, and that's incredible. And so that it's cool that you were able to turn that failure into something that has blossomed into something beautiful. That's cool.
Yeah, man. And like I said before, threes are notorious for saying this is how I turn my life around. And so I'm not saying that, but I am saying that in my brokenness and in my failure, it was Lindsay, my wife, who offered me grace and forgiveness. And it was a community of people around me that helped redirect me in the right direction. So there was no cape that I had on me or cape that I put on to make these changes and pull myself up by my bootstraps. But it was community and people around me that were helping me.
Yeah. No, I absolutely get that too. I'm not saying that you're the hero here. Actually, you're the villain in this story. How dare you, sir? Just kidding.
I wouldn't go that far, Mike. Just kidding.
No, but like even still, like the fact that you were able to internalize the things that you were learning, and that you've made real life change. It's for me. I work in a church as well, and so stories of life change are you hear them, and like it's easy to just like to bypass it and like, oh, that's really great, good for you, congratulations. But that it's had a ripple effect, not only because you were able to take your situation and learn from it, it's not only affected your relationship, it's affected your relationship with your kids, and then in turn affected the people that you're ministering to, and the people in your church, and then the people now, and then at this very moment right now, me. And so I'm getting to benefit from you having learned and having honestly having failed. And so that is something that like I'm gonna probably sit and chew on this one for a little while and think about it, and continue to learn, so that excuse me, that I can continue to grow. And so it's important to not let these moments pass you by. And so if you're out there listening and you're thinking, well, that's really great for him that he had to go through this moment and he had to go through that, you're going to have your moments too. And it's fun sometimes looking back on things that you would have considered a failure, and looking back on them and seeing how they were a turning point, a linchpin in your life to change you towards the life that you're supposed to be living. And so I'm happy in one term, and also sad that you failed. Thank you for being honest in that.
Yeah, I have a friend that says failure is not fatal.
Mhm.
Just realizing that, okay, even if you come up against a failure, um, that it's not the end of you, but it's the beginning of a new chapter if you respond and take responsibility. So I love that, because as someone who really wants to stay away from failures as much as possible, it's like, okay, that no, those can actually be new, like, chapter markers in
Yeah.
my walk. They don't have to be a reflection that I am worthless and have no value.
Mhm.
Um, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So this actually kind of leads us into our next question here. So, like you've had all these different seasons in your life, and you've kind of just turned the page into a new one with your Enneagram coaching and your writing and all of these things. So you're kind of like looking out at brand new horizons. And so, what's something that you're looking forward to right now as you're looking out into the future of what you got going on?
Yeah, well, the default of mine as a 3, and this is just something I share in common with a lot of people that identify with that achiever mindset. And by the way, I think our whole country like favors 3s more than any other sort of personality, because they love people who can get crap done, look good doing it, and get results. And that's the sort of like culture. That's
Hmm.
not the cult. That's not other cultures. People don't realize that that's not how it is in other parts of the world. Like I was on a podcast, an Australian podcast,
Ooh,
and there
good
was a
day.
guy who's a type 9, just like you. Um, and he said that it's the best place to be a 9 because everyone is like easygoing, and they don't have big egos. And in fact, if you're like a 3 like me and you have a website, a domain name with your name in it.com, he says you will be made fun of, you will be looked down upon. Like anybody that tries to rise above the rest of the population to make something of themselves, to be a somebody, is just like made fun of and looked down on. And I was like, what? That is so crazy, crazy. Because here in our culture, you might feel bad being a 9. You might feel
Hmm.
bad that you're not achieving as much or getting yourself out there like these other achievers. And it's just different wherever you're at. And
Hmm.
so okay, I think I was mentioning all that to say that I need to stop thinking that way, because that's how I sleep when I'm on default. That's how I think when I'm a zombie and just kind of going through life is I gotta achieve more. I gotta figure out how to, make an influence in this life and da 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 da. Rather than like, what do I enjoy? How can I slow down and spend time with my family and absorb the richness of my life that's right here in the present around me? So I'm trying to think that way, and it's really, really hard because it's like counterintuitive.
Hmm.
But I'm thinking about like, okay, how can I, yeah, go on more family vacations? Like COVID was like such a great experience for our family because it slowed me down. I got to work from home. I
Hmm.
got to build a chicken coop and build some garden beds for my wife. And we spent lots of quality time as a family together. And it was like the best season, even though it was like the worst season for, for our culture. But just doing things that like slow down. And now that I'm not in ministry anymore, it's beautiful to not have to think about church stuff on the weekends, like Sunday's coming, but I can like take my son to go to Husker like basketball games, football games, just do things on the weekend that aren't achieving anything, but just enjoying life. And so so what I'm looking forward to in the future is more experiences like that, making more memories with my family. And my wife and I want to write some kids books together. And now that
That's
I've kind of
awesome.
figured out self-publishing, me and my wife want to yeah, write some kids books together. So that's kind of something fun that we've been talking about for the future.
That's super cool. I'm excited for you, and I've got a couple young guys, so do it quickly so that they can enjoy it. Enjoy it, please.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, that's cool. All right. Yeah, I love that for you. I love the idea of getting to like slow down, have some intentional family time, and uh, yeah, just focus on what's most important. The thing that I've seen a lot recently is how much time is a thief, and so with
Hmm.
my family, like I've gone through definite seasons where I've been too busy for my own good and trying to do too much for my own good. And about once every 2 weeks, I tell my wife, I'm like, we got to slow down. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, babe, we really got to slow down. And like, I'm at the point where like, I just really don't want to miss this stage in my kid's life. I'm never going to get a 6 and a 9-year-old again. And so
Yeah.
I gotta enjoy this while I got it. So I think it's cool that you guys have taken the intention and that you've kind of structured your life in a way that you can start to do those things. So good work.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Now there's one question we ask everybody on the podcast, and you're here. So I'm asking you, and it can be something as small as you figured out a new way to brush your teeth to get more plaque off of them, or it could be something big like you've discovered a new branch of science. But what is something you're learning right now?
I was thinking about this and I was like, what could I share? And I think this is a good answer because this is really a big deal in my life right now. So to be honest, I'm still deconstructing and reconstructing my faith. Um,
Yeah.
so during COVID and then going through all the injustices that we went through, wow, there is so much going on spiritually in our country. But I mean, by that I mean like people are walking away from church, people are walking away from their faith, people are swap churches. When all the politics stuff came up, you realized, oh, I'm sitting next to you, but I have totally different political views from you. I don't want to be around you anymore. And hightail it out of there. So much craziness, and what's the word? Um, Conflict, disruption, maybe is a good word,
Yeah.
and is actually, I think, a good thing because it caused people to sort of question what they believe and try to ask more questions. And so I kind of went on a journey because, to be honest, it was very concerning for me because now I was in a multi-ethnic church. We had just merged. I have Asian brothers and sisters, Latino brothers and sisters, Black brothers and sisters, who are all experiencing all these things happening in the world. And I'm like, okay, the tribe that I grew up with, the kind of the church tradition I grew up with, was very silent. Was
Hmm.
very uh, acting in very surprising ways to me, and so it caused me to question sort of the spiritual foundation that I sort of was raised in. And I started asking lots of questions, and then I started to read more about the history of the world and try to wrap my mind around spiritual beliefs and history. And it kind of put me in an existential crisis that actually was a very good thing because I'm asking lots of questions and coming out of that season where I'm asking those things, I feel like I'm more open minded. I feel like I'm
Hmm.
more empathetic towards people who don't believe what I believe or grew up in the same tradition as me. I feel like I'm more curious. I feel like I love people better than I did before that, again, are on the different side of the political spectrum or religious side of the spectrum or whatever, every spectrum. I just feel like I'm more curious, more open minded. I love people better. And, um, I'm at that point in life where I'm like, I know I don't know everything and I want to stay
Yeah.
curious. Because when you start getting into like, I know the truth. I am exactly right in the middle. I'm perfectly balanced in my beliefs. You start getting into that, there's sort of this spiritual pride or just regular pride that takes over and causes you to not love and people and judge other people.
Yeah.
And I think that COVID and that whole season sort of disrupted that and has put me on a path of healing from some of the spiritual pride that I used to have. So that's in a nutshell is kind of what I'm learning and going through. I know it's a big existential thing, but I'm sure people that listening will be able to resonate with some of
Yeah,
this because I
absolutely.
know I'm not the only one.
Yeah, no, in life there's disruptors, and I think COVID was definitely one for a lot of people, and then throw in a couple wars, a couple of racial
Yeah.
disparities, and then a bunch of gender stuff. There's just yeah. As a nine, I hate all of this stuff, and I just wanted to go crawl in a closet somewhere. Um,
Yes.
and that no, it makes you, if you're intentional, it makes you stop and think and want to take a step back and really examine things. And so I'm guessing your four wing was going crazy, and your three ring was, or your three ness was trying to just put a good face forward, and it's all conflict. And so, and then me as a nine was just over there curled up in a corner. So uh, but at the end of the day, yeah, it really does make you kind of step back and be like, what is going on here? And so it's cool that you're taking that opportunity to learn. And again, it's probably just in the end of the day, at some point, through what you're doing and putting out in the world, it's just going to help people. And so it's cool that you've taken the time to step back and learn from it instead of just letting it happen to you. You're learning from it and growing with it. So good job.
Appreciate that, Mike. Thanks so much for saying that.
All right, now, so we are at the end of the podcast here. You got your sticky notes here. This round of questions, I like to call it the common ground round. Now, this podcast, we've talked about all sorts of big things and how we are similar in the world, but this last round is just how you and I are similar. And so we're going to see if maybe you and me are the same. So you've got your pen there. You've got your, do you got sticky notes? Is that what you grabbed earlier?
I got like a little note card thing here.
Ooh la la,
So,
fancy town.
yeah.
All right, so we're going to answer and we'll reveal them at the same time. There will be no cheating. And you ready for this? All right, here we go.
Yep.
Would you rather have M&Ms or Reese's Pieces? Or Reese's Pieces, if you say it correctly. All right, let me know when you're ready to reveal yours.
I'm ready.
Are you ready? Here we go. 3, 2, 1. I went M&Ms. You went
Reese's.
I can't see it. What does it say?
Reese's.
Reese's Pieces. Oh no.
What is wrong with my fancy camera? My fancy camera can't read.
It's all good. I can't either, so I need you to read them to me anyway. Yeah. So you're a peanut butter kind of guy. Is that what I'm picking up?
Yes. Yeah. I love Halloween because when my kids come back and they don't like it as much, I'm like, I'll take all the Reese's from you.
More power to you. You and my brother would actually, I was going to say you'd get along, but you wouldn't get along because you'd both be fighting for the same candy. You and I, we could hang out. You could have all the Reese's Pieces and all. My goal is to get the peanut butter M&M, not peanut butter, but peanut M&Ms. That's the gold standard right there.
I like those too. And side note, as an achiever, I created a roadmap of like my neighborhood and like, okay, this is how we're going to get to the most amount of houses in the least amount of time.
Yeah.
Be very efficient. And then I realized after a couple of years that doing that gave my kids more candy, which caused them to be more sugared up and high for not high, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
On a sugar high.
There it is.
Edit that out.
What kind of neighborhood are you living in, man?
In Nebraska, weed's not legal here, so it's just sugar highs. But then I realized, what am I doing?
Mm-hmm.
And so this year, just went out for 45 minutes, came back, and I could just settle down. Not trying to get my kids out the van doors, both sides. Having to meet you up the street. Got 30 seconds. Go. Like it's some sort of SWAT operation.
I love that for you. And I just imagine you in like one of those like track suits with a whistle.
Yes.
Looking very much like a Mike Ditka or something. Just going to town, yelling at your kids.
I'm ridiculous. So,
but
okay.
like in that former version of yourself, the dad tax would probably be much higher because you'd put so much effort into it. So think about that. You might want to go back to your old strategy again, get more candy, more dad tax. It's a vicious cycle, but it's very important.
It is. Sorry to derail you. What's the next question?
No. All right. Oh, wow. Okay. We'll keep moving on. I was going to tell you how much I love M&Ms, but I don't want to now. Just kidding. Here we go. Would you rather give a speech or write a paper? This one is easy for me. Let me know when you're ready.
I already know, but you're gonna.
Here we go.
What?
I went speech. What did you put?
Right.
Oh, I kind of figured that for you especially after our conversation. But you wanna sit down and write? Is that
That's
that
the
seems
only
very un-3 of you.
I'm the introverted 3.
Okay.
I'm an introverted achiever. So I like to spend time by myself, writing and reflecting and being by myself. That's what recharges me. And then to let my books and let my writing speak for itself, to impress people as a 3. I don't really want to try to impress people on stage. So as a pastor, I gave, hundreds of sermons.
Yeah.
And it never got, it got easier, but I was just anxious before I had to go up and get on stage. Some pastors like, oh, I'm just chomping at the bit to get on stage. And I'm like, no, that's not me. I could sit this one out because I burn a lot of calories having to get in front of people because I just feel like there's a bigger target on my back. Just being able to fail when I'm speaking. And it just, yeah. So, right. And so I've written, that's again, that's how I've been able to pump out books is just I write 1 hour a day, and it's just like incremental steps, just a little, doing that little by little over the course of years pays off.
Yeah.
So,
good for you, man. More power to you. So a long time ago on, I don't know have you ever heard of the website Reddit?
Yeah.
A long time ago, there was an Enneagram 9s subreddit. And I just asked all of the people in the group, or whoever responded, I was like, I just want to see if do a scientific, I did bunny ears on scientific question. How many of you put you're a type 9, but what is your Myers-Briggs personality type? And I just wanted to see if maybe I was like all those people in that group. And so a lot of them responded that they were INFPs. So they were introverted. And I'm an ENFP. And so I kind of felt like the oddball in the group because I'm just like, if given the opportunity, throw me on a stage with zero preparation and let me just have fun for 15 minutes or an hour or whatever, and we'll just have a good time. But to sit down and write things, that is like all of my dread. And it is, yeah. So I don't know why I want to write a book, but I do.
not to get too technical, but you could be a social 9. So there's like 3 different, you can break it down into 3 different types of 9s. And one of them is a social 9. And so they look a lot like 3s. They look very productive. They look like achievers because when they get around a group of people or a podcast like this, they're moving, they're talking, they're doing things. But they still have this sort of the same core motivations as other more introverted 9s, for example, but not to get into that, but just a side note.
I love hearing about myself. Keep talking about me, please. That's great. That is the selfish side of me. I'm a selfish 9. I don't know. All right. This one is, I don't know if there's any Enneagram bearing on this one, but we're just going to go for it. Would you rather explore deep space or the deep ocean? Deep space or deep ocean? Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1. I went space. Which way did you go?
Space.
I can't see. Space. Look at us. We finally did it together at last.
Yeah. Ocean. I get claustrophobic down there. And especially with the recent tragedy, people dying down in the ocean. I'm like, I'll stay out of the ocean. And there's not sharks in space. And
you don't know
dangerous
that.
animals.
Space is a very big place. There might be space sharks. Here's one
thing. Does your wife think that there's aliens?
Does my wife think that there's aliens?
Yeah.
We don't talk about this very much. After this, I'm going to talk to her about it. And I will put in the show notes if my wife thinks there's aliens. I'll shoot you a text after this and let you know what she says.
Most like type 5s and type 6s down in that area believe in more conspiracy theories, and they believe in aliens, extraterrestrial life. And I always roll my eyes because I'm like, no, I don't believe there's aliens. So it's kind of a ongoing almost fight that we have. in her marriage.
Okay.
She can't
Well, it's
believe
a
that I
big
don't
universe out
believe
there.
in the aliens. So, but she does. So just see if your type 6 wife is into believes in aliens too.
Babe, if you're listening, if you could write in the chat what you think about aliens, that'd be great. Yeah, I want to believe that there are space sharks. So let me have this one. Moving on. All right. I think I don't know what I think you're gonna do on this one. I've got my answer, but would you rather be a teacher or a student? Teacher or a student?
Oh my goodness.
What do I want to do? Tyler is deep in contemplation mode right now. Let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Answer. Here we go. I put teacher. What do you got?
Teacher.
Hey.
Yeah. You remember 90% of what you teach. So you're actually a better student if you are a teacher.
It's a little annoying that you had a smart answer to that. I'm just shooting from the hip over here. So you're in this for the knowledge. I'm just here for a good time.
And I was never a good student. I didn't get good grades because I was spaced out because I was bored. But if you give me something,
intelligent life in space.
If you give me something I'm passionate about, I will research that thing to no end and become super competent. But if it's something I don't care about, which most of school was just generalized learning, it just did not. I actually, true story, I got sent to go get my hearing checked because the teacher thought that I literally had physical hearing problems. And it's like, nope, I was just spaced out. Didn't want to listen to you. They're like, beep, beep, beep. I was like, listen, his hearing is perfect.
Yep. When one of our sons was in preschool, they did it was like, this is a comprehensive hearing test and a vision test, and we were super excited to get the results back. And we thought it was going to be like this in-depth thing, and it was just like a 3x5 card that said sight and like a checkbox that said passed with the checkbox that said passed, and then and hearing, he passed as well. But at some point, one of his teachers was like, we don't know if Ben can hear us, and we're like, we're pretty sure he can hear you. And so we went to an audiologist and had him checked, and we're like, he can hear you. he doesn't want to.
Same thing.
Probably doesn't want to do it. So
yep.
Oh, that kid, love him to death. All right, this last one is.
Do you know, Mike, that nines are notorious for shaking their head yes when they really disagree with you on the inside. So you never can
you're talking about. I've never done that once in my life.
So I didn't know if you resonated with that, but
no, I think I'm a bad 9 in that respect. That so we were talking about the wings earlier. My wing is an 8, and so
you have a blunt wing.
Yeah.
Not to get confused with the weed, but blunt as in blunt.
Blunt weed.
Yes. Blunt, honest blunt.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the thing that the staff here has coined that is this just kind of become a thing is when I am just being overly passive, but everything is annoying me, is they call it Arthur hands. Have you ever seen that meme of the cartoon character Arthur where he's got his fist by his side? All right, I'll send it to you later, but it's just a cartoon character and his hand is in a fist by his side. And so everything else looks really passive, but he's got his fists clenched. And so, so if I am just letting things, if I'm just letting things happen that aren't right, and I'm angry inside, that they call it Arthur hands. And so,
that's one of the tortured combinations. There's a number of, and I'm a 3 with a 4 wing. It's a tortured type. Yours is a tortured type because of that exact, where your bluntness will make you say things in the moment that your 8 wing will cause you to be blunt. And then your 9 will beat you up the rest of the day being like, oh my gosh, now he's probably mad at you. Now he's probably gonna, there's gonna be conflict, or he's not gonna want to be your friend anymore. And just that constant inner battle. Not everybody experiences that, but congratulations, you do, Mike.
Hey, look at us tortured souls. Oh
Yeah.
man, the one that we figured out, so between my wife and I, is in traffic, if we like say somebody cuts us off, she will like verbalize like, ah, I can't believe it. And like in my head, so she's in that moment, she's done with it. It's gone. That person is, it's no longer in her brain. But me, I'm like, is she okay? Are we gonna spend the rest of the day feeling this feeling that we just got cut off, and like she's angry now? And she's like, no, I immediately forgot it. And I'm over here like, what do we got to do to make things better? Should I tell a joke right
Yep.
now? And so yeah, it's fun. Again, like if you can figure out these tools and use them to help you,
Yep.
it's great. So
Yes.
and then she gets mad at me for asking her over and over if she's okay. She's like, yes, I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm not okay now because you keep asking me. But moving on, actually, this actually segues into our last one here. Do you like pancakes or waffles? Would you rather
Oh, okay.
pancakes or waffles? And I will give you the caveat of you can add any ingredients into said pancake or waffle. But I know which way I am going here. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. I went pancake.
Pancakes.
Pancake, and we got the last 3 together. I feel good about that. Feel great about that. What is your dream pancake?
Oh, like chocolate chip pancakes with
Mm.
whipped cream on top. I have a
Okay.
sweet tooth. My wife has she likes salty things.
Mhm.
So I'm the sweet eater. So I'll take. Even last night, she made banana bread, and I was like putting extra chocolate chips on top. And then I made homemade whipped cream for my son. And then I was putting that whipped cream on. I was like, see, look, Lindsay, look what I did. And she's like, oh,
Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome. There
yeah.
was one time on the podcast that I had a guy on that he had written a book, and I didn't know him personally, and so I asked, one of the first questions was, "What's your dream breakfast?" And like in my brain, a dream breakfast is like sugar and carbs and all of this stuff, and he's like, an egg white omelet with if I'm feeling crazy, spinach, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Yeah.
this is not how dreams work. This is
Yeah.
this is not the ideal. But yeah, no, for me, it's a good pecan pancake, and with some syrup. That's beautiful. I could, yeah.
We had a girl on our church's staff team that came from the Northeast.
Mhm.
She went to like Harvard or something, and she brought kale and kombucha to work, and she was like trying to share it with people, and we're like, "What are you doing? Like, this is the Midwest. What are you doing? That's
Oh
not
man,
welcome here."
like, get that quinoa out of here. No one's got time for that.
Yes. Yes.
Oh
Oh
man.
man.
Tyler, this has been so much fun. Thank you again so much for being here. This has been unreal, and I'm still shocked when anyone says yes to joining in. So thank you for saying yes and being here. It's been a blast. And there's people that they've heard this conversation today, and maybe it's one of their first exposures to the Enneagram, and they want to learn from you, dig in to the Enneagram with you, or just even get to know you a little bit better. What's a great way for people to follow you and kind of join you on this Enneagram journey?
Yeah, the biggest kind of where the party's at is Instagram, and that's so Gospel for Enneagram. Uh, you can put the link in the show notes if you want the direct link.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Gospel for FOR, Gospel for Enneagram, and
Mm.
I have tons of content on there that's not faith related. That's really it's a blessing to all. And I put content out like new series every single week. I'm also putting new one video a week, on like what it's like to be a type 3 or what it's like to be a type 3 in love, what it's like to
Mm.
be a type 3 child or type 9
Mm.
child. So you can binge watch like 90 minutes of video content for free on YouTube on Gospel for Enneagram. And if the best, my labor of love has been my books. So if you want a faith related book, it's 180 pages on just encouraging you and helping you to get to know yourself in astonishing ways. Like that 40-day devotional series that I've putting together that's going to be done here really soon is a great, just a great tool. It's a labor of love. It's just an encouraging letter from me to you. It's really long, and there's 3 reflection questions at the end of each of the 40 days, an action step, I'd go get it now on Amazon. I think you'll really enjoy it. That's how they can find me.
Yeah, it's close to Christmas, everybody. Find out your friends and loved ones' Enneagram numbers. Buy them a book.
Great Christmas gift. Yeah.
Yep, sounds good. And if you are the 100th listener to this episode, Tyler's going to send you a free copy.
Nice.
Let's
do it.
There's no way to quantitate that. I just wanted to make it happen. But I just can't wait to see who's the 100th listener. And again, Tyler, thank you so much for being here. And everyone else out there listening, thank you for joining us this week. We will see you next time here on Maybe You're Like Me. Thanks, Tyler.
Thanks, Mike.